Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, um, to Vapor Sports. We're back. Week 3 just ended last night with the Ravens and the Chiefs, and we're back to talk some more football. Pretty interesting week. Pretty good games for the most part, other than my poor Broncos and your Steelers barely coming away with a win. If I'm not mistaken, the Texans are really giving them
Yeah,
a run for their money.
yep. A better game, I would say, for the most part on offense, but it was 28-21. So I mean,
Right.
still pretty close game, but
Yep. They need to start winning by more. All right, let's get into the games. So we got the Russell Wilson led Seahawks and the Cowboys, Dem Boys, playing in at CenturyLink Field in Seattle. Why don't you give me some stats?
yeah. So pretty close game. For most of the part, Russell Wilson was dominating. 27 out of 40, passing 315 yards and 5 touchdowns. Notably, 3 of those were to Tyler Lockett, who had 9 catches for 100 yards. And also, DK Metcalf had that one
Yep.
where he thought he was like about to score, and then I
Just too
forgot the name
cocky,
of the
man.
Cowboys
Yeah.
quarterback.
He's just
Yeah,
getting too
he
cocky.
had 4 catches. Yeah, it's crazy. You can't let up on the play, and I think he just thought it was gonna happen. He was gonna score anyway. But yeah, DK Metcalf with 4 catches for 110. Chris Carson ended up getting hurt. Now there's some debate about that, but that's a whole different story. As for the Cowboys, Dak Prescott, 37 out of 57 completions, 472 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. And their leading receiver was Michael Gallup with 6 catches for 138 yards and a touchdown as well.
Yep.
Final score 38-31.
Yeah, so Seattle doesn't exactly have the defense they used to have, but luckily they do have a man named Russell Wilson. They're just gonna have to hope that Russell Wilson can keep this up because 470 odd yards is not really acceptable. You're not gonna. I think the Seahawks are a good team, but you're not gonna go super far because if Dak Prescott can throw for 470 yards, Patrick Mahomes can probably throw for 600, in my opinion.
Yeah, I
But
guess my thoughts on it were that I guess I was going to say my thoughts on the game were more that I think the Cowboys definitely had a better chance leading into the second half because, again, they didn't really, like, again, Russell Wilson was throwing touchdowns, but the Cowboys were still kind of in the game.
yeah,
Towards the end, they kind of faded away. And I think if that Metcalf, Alter would have been, if that would have decided the game and the Cowboys would have won that, I think a lot of people would have just said, well, that that should have never happened. But that
yeah.
was just funny to watch.
Yeah, and I definitely think that Russell Wilson may be a little bit holding a little bit of a grudge since he didn't get any MVP votes last year. I think I bet he's trying to go for a little bit of a revenge tour.
Yep.
All right, yeah. So a lot of quarterback play, not much defense in that game, but that's what like a lot of people like to see is a lot of scoring. So let's move on to I believe it was Green Bay at New Orleans.
Yeah, so the Packers ended up, well, they're now 3-0, but they won 37-30. Aaron Rodgers had 21 out of 32 passing, 283 yards, as well as 3 touchdowns. Aaron Jones on the ground, 16 carries, 69 yards, and a touchdown. And Alan Lazard with 6 catches, 146 yards, and a touchdown as well.
All right, yeah. So I didn't catch the entire game, but from what I saw like the first quarter and I saw the fourth quarter. But from what I saw, and I think everyone just agrees on this is kind of just a known fact at this point, is that Aaron Rodgers loves to go deep and Drew Brees really does not. Um, it's really hard to say if Drew Brees is washed up because, you know, it may be that since the last 3 or 4 years, throwing short has really worked for the Saints. It's probably still their game plan. Maybe they change it and they throw it deep more, and maybe the conversation is ended, or maybe Drew Brees is really washed up. Maybe he can't throw it more than 30 yards accurately anymore. But yeah, definitely interesting. You know it's bad when you have less yards per attempt than Tom Brady. That's usually not a good sign for a quarterback. So
I
yeah,
mean,
I definitely think Aaron Rodgers is also trying to make his case for the MVP because I think he wants to prove that he can still play at an elite level.
I was gonna say, Alvin Kamara did well for my fantasy. I believe he had 6 rushes for 58 yards. He had also one like really long run that set up a touchdown, and he caught 13 passes for 139. So he
Yeah, I did
wasn't.
see
He was
that.
pretty effective.
He
But
was kind of the
again,
Michael Thomas for them.
yeah, I guess my thing is that I wonder how much the absence of Thomas is gonna have
Yeah.
later in the season. So.
Yeah, I definitely think they're feeling those effects, and yeah, it's one of those players where your entire offense last year was pretty much built around a wide receiver, and this is why I think that you should go for quarterbacks way before wide receivers because a great wide receiver can't throw the ball to himself.
Yeah.
But Michael Thomas may be the exception to that. My personal rule that wide receivers don't really matter, as long as you have a good quarterback. I think he might be kind of that exception, and Drew Brees is definitely missing him currently. All right, let's move on to the Monday night game last night, the game of the year, the number 1 team, number 2 team, Ravens and Chiefs. If you remember from our last video, me and Tate both chose the Ravens. Obviously not a great choice, but you just think on paper the Ravens are definitely, I think, a more well-rounded team, but I mean, last year during the playoffs, you got to think the Chiefs' defense was severely underrated, and I think it's still severely underrated. I don't think that people give the Chiefs' defense as much credit as they deserve, including myself. So, why don't you get started?
Yeah, for sure. Well, so the Chiefs came out victorious, 34-20. The Chiefs scored 21 points in the second quarter, so pretty big deficit for the Baltimore Ravens. Patrick Mahomes was 31 out of 42, 385 yards, as well as 4 touchdowns. LSU and now Chiefs running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire he wasn't that effective, but he did have 20 carries for 64. And then leading receiver was Travis Kelce with 6 catches for 87. And well, disappointingly for Lamar Jackson, we kind of expected a little more out of him, but he was 15 out of 28, 97 yards and 1 touchdown. He also ran for 83 yards. And well, their leading receiver was J.K. Dobbins with 4 catches for 38. So,
Yeah,
you're kind of expecting a little more out of this offense, and I was
definitely.
too. I thought it was going to be a closer game for sure. But I guess the big thing is that Lamar Jackson is now 0-3 against Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, that's true. Well, then the final score was 34-20.
Yeah.
But and it's not a blowout by any means, but it definitely wasn't a close. I mean, it was a close game in some sense. But if you take away that special teams touchdown that the Ravens got, that's a 34-13 loss. That is a massive loss for a team that is. I know they think that they can win a championship, and a lot of people in the country believed that the Ravens were a better team than the Chiefs, and you could still make a case that they were because it is the regular season, but at the same time, I think the Chiefs are really going to be undisputed until someone finally knocks them off in the playoffs. I think they're going to be the championship favorite. I mean, they are obviously, and I think they'd have to lose in a pretty horrible fashion to a not so great team like maybe the Broncos to not be considered the favorites anymore.
Maybe.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson, bit of a disappointment. Definitely didn't see. I mean, obviously he had a decent day running, but I feel like that's kind of a given now with him. All right, let's do the power rankings. Let's go through some of those. Wow. All right, so we're gonna start off here with the New York Jets, 32. That's about right. I believe they were 32 last week. I don't know what
They were, yep.
I don't even know what there is to say about the Jets. They suck.
Yeah, well, right above them is the other New York team, Giants, 31. They went down 2 spots from week 3, so they're from 29. Again, they're without Saquon Barkley. They're probably their best player on the team. So yeah, disappointing somewhat.
Yep. Okay, so Bengals at 30. They actually moved up 1 spot because they tied with the Eagles, which I think the Eagles should be really low right now. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the Bengals I think they are going to be a solid 6-10, 7-9 team, which, you know, that record alone isn't very good, but for a team that for so long has been so terrible, that would be a massive improvement over the last year. So I feel like baby steps is good for them. I think Joe Burrow is starting to settle in, even though he took that massive hit. It's gonna take a lot of settling in, but I think they're getting there.
Yeah, I guess my opinion on like ties and stuff is that I kind of find it disappointing. You're like, oh man,
Yeah.
who won and who lost? Like it doesn't really do anything.
Yep.
Anyway, 29 Carolina Panthers. They went up 1 spot. They are 1-2. There's not really much to say after even though they beat the Chargers, but yeah.
All right. Next we have my Denver Broncos at 28, going down 4 spots. They got they didn't get they got blown out. Let's be honest. By the Bucks, and unfortunately, I think if they had all their starting players, because they have like their 3 best players on the offense are out. Their 2 best players, 3 best players now on the defense are out. So there's only so much you can do. I mean, I can't argue with the rating. I think they would be at 2-1, 1-2 if they had their full starting lineup right now. But yeah, until they get Drew Lock back, which could potentially be against the Patriots next week, I don't see them raising that rank, and I can't argue with it.
All right, 27 Jacksonville Jaguars. They went down 1 spot from week 3 at 27. Again, I think we both picked the Jaguars for the Thursday night football game,
Yep.
and unfortunately, that didn't work out great. Yeah, there's not really much to say about them other than they've been, not too great these past 2 weeks. So.
Yep. All right, moving to the Atlanta Falcons, a team that has so much talent, although they did lose Julio Jones. But
Yep.
I mean, they are just blowing leads like it's nothing. I saw the stat. They are the first team in NFL history to blow 2 16-point leads in the same season, and it's only week 3. They could still blow more leads and raise that record. So wow. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how far they're going to fall, especially since their offense has been performing quite well.
Yep. Well, all right, 25, we have the Washington football team. They weren't able to get it done against Cleveland this weekend, so they stay at 25.
All right, yep. So moving on to the Miami Dolphins, they switched spots with the Broncos, actually. Yeah, I mean, I was pleasantly surprised by Ryan Fitzpatrick. I mean, I think everyone knows that he is a good quarterback. He's never going to be a bad quarterback. But, yeah, I was just surprised, I mean, by his individual play for sure. I mean, he was playing the Jaguars. So, I mean, you can only give him so much credit. But, yeah, I mean, I think they need to put Tua in soon. I think if you want to have that franchise centerpiece, you got to start working him soon.
Yeah, and they do face the Seahawks this upcoming weekend, so that will be a good test.
That's true.
All right, 23, the Detroit Lions. They actually went up 4 spots from week 3 at 23. They've looked a little better this weekend as far as coming out, but they're still 1-2. So.
Right. Well, they did beat the Cardinals, though, who a lot of people were saying was
Cardinals are good.
One of those teams that was going to be a big-time dark horse. So now we have the Eagles, who only moved down 1 spot. Their coach made the decision to punt in overtime instead of kicking the long field goal, which would have tied the record. But with how little time there was, I think it's worth the risk. I think most people agree. I think Carson Wentz, I don't know what his problem is because I haven't watched any Eagles football, so I can't really say too much about the team, but I think massive problems there, man.
Yeah. Well, actually, the team ahead of them, the Minnesota Vikings, are surprisingly 0-3 and actually ranked ahead of all the teams that we had just mentioned that are 1-2. Went down 2 spots from week 3 from 19. I guess my thing about the Vikings is that I did not expect them to be 0-3
Oh, absolutely
already.
not.
And what's crazy about it is that Kirk Cousins has experienced the third highest pressure rate of his career, which is 47% against Tennessee. So, it's whether it's an offensive line or he just doesn't have the weapons around him to kind of get those short passes out. It's kind of, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think the loss of Stephon Diggs maybe has something to do with kind of the way their offense is functioning, but we
Yeah.
can't know for sure.
I agree. So the Houston Texans are still ranked 20. Their offensive line is terrible. They are tied with the Broncos for the second most sacks allowed. I don't know how the hell they didn't go down. I mean, I know you're playing the Steelers. The Steelers are a good team, but at the same time, they have almost no one on defense other than J.J. Watt. Their offensive line is terrible. Running the ball is going to be a problem. And Deshaun Watson, while being, one of those underrated quarterbacks that if he had an offensive line could be competing for an MVP spot, but I always think you got to start with offensive line when you're building a team. You start with the quarterback, then the offensive line if you want to build a good offense. Everything else follows. And also DeAndre Hopkins is gone, so they're definitely feeling the effects of that.
Yeah, Watson has been sacked 13 times, which is the second most in the NFL. 13 times already in 3 weeks. Yeah, that's a little concerning. Anyway, Los Angeles Chargers, they moved down 1 spot from week 3 to 19. I mean, yeah, it's just the Chargers. I think it's definitely just kind of building with Justin Herbert. That's really it.
Yeah, they are definitely
getting him into the groove. But they had 5 turnovers against Carolina, so they'll need to kind of take that into account.
I'm surprised they didn't move down more since they lost to Carolina. All right, we got the Cleveland Browns, who for the first time in how long? It's a long time. It's nearly a decade. Are above 500, which is it's so ridiculous that it's only 3 games in and they're already getting credit for just being not dog shit. Is basically what's going on.
Dog pound.
Yeah, I don't know what else there is to say about the Browns. I just don't. I've never been even in their hype year, which was the year before last year, when everyone's like, oh, they're going to the Super Bowl, they got all this talent. I still wasn't on the hype train for that, and I think they still need. I think Baker Mayfield is a good quarterback, but they kind of need a new identity.
Yeah, they'll have some prove-it games, I think, this season just to test them. So especially against their AFC rivals. All right. Anyway, Dallas Cowboys again against the Seahawks. They went down 3 spots, so now they're at 17. I mean, yeah, they faced some pretty good quarterbacks. You think about Jared Goff, Matt Ryan, Russell Wilson.
Right.
But their defense has to step it up at some point. They have allowed 97 points in 3 games already, so that's most to open a season in franchise history for them. So something's got to change.
And they're still 1-2. So.
Yep.
Next we got the Colts, who got a win. I still don't know what to think about the Colts. It's one of those teams where I'm just not sure. And I think like you said, I think halfway through the season, week 8, week 10-ish, in between there is when I'll start to kind of know what the Colts are. But as of right now, they're kind of a mystery to me. So I don't really know what to say about the Colts.
Yeah. All right. At 15, the Las Vegas Raiders, they went down 2 spots. Again, I think, as I said before, I think last week I said the AFC West is kind of one of those divisions where the Chiefs are the clear favorites, but there might be some teams that are going to challenge them. I still think the Raiders, can't overlook them, but they need to improve a bit just to kind of, get up with, the Chiefs and every other contender in the AFC if they want to have a chance.
Right. All right. So moving on to the Chicago Bears, who are undefeated. They had that comeback against Atlanta,
Yep.
and they put Big Dick Nick in. So maybe maybe they're finally making that move that they should have made years ago. But yeah, I think the Chicago Bears are kind of on the same level as the Colts in my mind. I actually saw this fantastic meme, and it was the game Among Us, and it was all the 3-0 teams. And it says there's an imposter among us, and the imposter was, of course, the Chicago Bears.
The Bears.
I mean, what can I say, man? I think I still think they have a really good defense, and I think if Nick Foles can play consistently, then they'll have a shot at a wild card spot.
Yep. We'll see about the Bears. It will be interesting with them. All right. So 13 Arizona Cardinals. Again, they lost to the Detroit Lions this weekend. Kyler Murray had 3 interceptions, which I contributed to that loss. And there's not really much to say other than that they lost to a bad team, but I think they can rebound and just, do a little better against the Panthers.
Oh, I definitely agree. We got Tampa Bay Buccaneers moving up a few spots. Tom Brady definitely looks sharper against the Broncos, and they're definitely a diminished, just a all-around diminished team. But their pass rush is diminished, their secondary is diminished. So and he had 2 rookie corners to throw against. But I mean, they looked like a really solid team. Shaq Barrett looked amazing as usual. So I mean, nowhere to go but up after a solid win like that.
All right, so at number 11, we have the 49ers. They went down 2 spots to number 11. However, they did beat a pretty bad Giants team over the weekend.
By quite a bit, I believe, too.
Yeah, 36-9, I believe.
Right.
Yeah, I guess, without Jimmy G and George Kittle, it's kind of like, what receiving weapons do they have? The only person that stood out to me was their rookie, Brandon Ayuk. But other than that, I'm not sure. Again, it was against the Giants, so you can't really get much of an idea, but we'll see about them.
Yep. All right, so number 10, we got the Saints moving on 5 spots. That's quite a few spots. But they're 1-2. They're really looking. They still have the pieces from last year that did well. Obviously not Michael Thomas, but the players that played well last year are still playing well, but it's really weird. I never thought the Saints would be where they are right now, and I'd be very scared if I was a Saints fan right now.
Yep. All right, so the number 9 New England Patriots, they went up 1 spot from number 10. I mean, yeah, they definitely looked a little better this weekend. Cam Newton still, I kind of wish he can get back to the form he had with, Carolina a few years ago, but that will definitely take some time, especially with the new offense. And I forgot the quote that what he called Bill Belichick, some like really funny name, but can't remember it. But yeah, just watch out for them in the coming weeks.
All right, then we got the Rams moving down 1 spot. Gosh, who did they lose to? The Bills. I mean, honestly, not a bad game for the Rams overall. I mean, the Bills are a very good team. So, I mean, you can't complain that you almost came back on the Bills. But at the same time, a loss is a loss. So I think moving down 1 spot's pretty fair.
Yeah. All right, number 7. So my Steelers are 3-0. They moved up 4 spots. Again, they beat the Texans, which, again, you can't say like much about their offense right now. But what's worrying me more is how they're kind of like faltering at the end of the games. Like they either have like this really good stretch, or they just like kind of go dead for a minute. So that James Conner run, like he's been doing better than I expected, but more I'm just kind of waiting for everything to kind of fit together, if that makes sense. Like Ben, Juju, and James Conner all like in the same week having a good day.
Yeah.
So far,
and you said that before the Broncos game even, so you're kind of waiting for that for a little while. All right, moving up 2 spots, we got the Tennessee Titans. Yeah, I mean, they were playing obviously very demoralized Vikings team, but I think that Tennessee's going to have more of the same from last year. And I think they're definitely the favorites to win their division now with the Texans kind of out of their way. So we'll see. I'm interested to see if they can remain consistent and if they can make a deep run in the playoffs.
I was going to say, kind of my concern with the Titans is that they have given up a lot of yards on offense. They gave up 464 to the Vikings.
Right.
They gave up 480 to the Jaguars. So I honestly kind of think they're a little fortunate to have a 3-0 record, but again, they've been getting it out, so we'll see. All right, anyway, at number 5, Buffalo Bills went up one spot. They're 3-0 and beat the Jaguars. I do like how Josh Allen is playing. I think he is starting to look like an MVP kind of candidate. But that's, again, it's a little too early to judge. And I think
definitely.
the Buffalo Bills will, when they start facing tougher AFC opponents such as like the Patriots, we'll kind of see and judge what happens with them from there.
Yep. All right, moving on to the Green Bay Packers. They stay at 4. Aaron Rodgers is looking really good. Like I said, we said that in our recap. I definitely think that the Green Bay Packers right now, because everyone's making fun of them because they didn't draft any wide receivers like they expected them to. But I think this is just a better case for kind of my philosophy that the wide receivers, you have to have decent wide receivers, but you don't have to have, top tier elite wide receivers to have good, a good passing game. I think it really just starts with the quarterback. So, I mean, did the Packers plan this, or are they just lucky that Aaron Rodgers is probably a little salty? We'll have to find out down the line, but they're looking pretty good.
Yep. All right, so number 3, Seahawks, they didn't move, and they beat the Packers. And, I'm really high on Russell Wilson right now. I think he has a lot to prove. And he's definitely showed that, again, with 5 touchdowns in a game against the Cowboys this weekend. They're definitely challengers for their division. I think, now they're kind of on the driver's seat for the division over the 49ers, but that's not to say that the Cardinals and Rams aren't out of it. So
Right. And even the Niners, if they can get healthy fast enough, obviously.
Yep.
All right, so number 2, we have the Ravens. They're staying at the spot after their pretty heartbreaking loss. I wouldn't say, well, I guess it wouldn't be heartbreaking, but after a very disappointing loss to the Chiefs. I mean, losing to the Chiefs isn't something to be ashamed of, but at the same time, if you're the Ravens, you're supposed to be the team that can beat the Chiefs. So I would be very disappointed. They have a lot to work on. They're obviously kind of a regular season team like they were last year, and I think it's going to continue to be that way until they make just those final few changes to get them over the hump.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think this might be up for debate, but I do believe that the Seahawks should be above the Ravens. I'm not saying the Ravens should be like really lower. I'm just saying I think that the Seahawks and possibly like the Packers should be above the Ravens considering performance they had on Monday.
Yeah.
But anyway, so number 1, we had the Chiefs. There's not really much of a discussion. They played very well against the Ravens, who happen to be a challenger. But Patrick Mahomes has been looking great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
not too much to unpack there. All right, let's move on to our predictions now. I think we have another decent week lined up. Some matchups I'm going to be looking at are the Patriots and the Chiefs. Are just going to be a really good one. I think Steelers and Titans, if they of course play.
Yeah,
because of the whole COVID thing. That one's
going to be weird.
We'll see if that happens. I think it'll be a very good game. And then I think that's it for like really good matchups, but obviously in the NFL every week's pretty good. So let's just jump right into it. We got Thursday night. Also, I just want to mention this is probably the worst primetime lineup in the whole season, maybe in a couple years, because you have Broncos at Jets for Thursday night, you have Eagles at 49ers for Sunday night, and then you have Falcons at Panthers for Monday night. That is a very lousy primetime matchup or lineup. But I guess it is. You can't have all bangers. But let's start with the Broncos at Jets. Thursday night football in a few days. Broncos looking banged up. Jets sucked even if they don't have injuries. So I'm gonna go Broncos. I've gone Broncos every week except for week 2, and I think this is their best chance to get a win. Uh,
Yeah.
but if they
Um,
if they want to go for Trevor Lawrence, I guess now would be the time to start losing. But I think they'll win.
I got the Broncos as well. Again, I'm not really too high on the Jets, and well, as I've said before, I think the Broncos, if they did not have every single injury that they've already had in 3 weeks, I think they'd at least be like 1-2, or sorry, 2-1 if they beat the Titans and possibly beat the Steelers. So
Yeah.
it's fine. I got the Broncos as well.
All right. Yeah. Not too hard. We got Saints at Lions. Saints. I think they'll rebound for sure. Although the Lions did beat the Cardinals, so I don't know what the hell's going to happen in that game. I'm actually a little worried that the Lions may be able to pull off another upset, but I'm going to go with the safe one here. I'm going to go Saints.
I got Saints as well. Again, I thought the Lions, that upset was pretty alarming,
Yeah, I
but
agree.
I don't think that's really too much of a something to be worried about, especially for the Saints. So I got Saints.
All right, then we got Chargers at Buccaneers. Chargers coming off a loss and Buccaneers coming off a pretty good win. I think Tom Brady's just going to keep. I think, well, I wouldn't say Tom Brady. I'd say their entire offense is just going to start clicking more and more. They looked very efficient against the Broncos, and I think it'll be more of the same against the Chargers.
Yeah, I got the Bucks as well. Just going with the safe pick.
All right, we got Jaguars at Bengals. Two pretty bad teams, but I think both quarterbacks could have good days. But I'm gonna say Bengals in a close one.
Well, I mean, I picked the Jaguars last week against the Dolphins. That didn't really work out that great. I'm just gonna go against them this time, and I think
Yeah, I
Joe
agree.
Burrow might have a good day in the air. So I got Bengals.
All right, so then we got Vikings at Texans. If of course they play, we'll have to see after they do some testing of the Vikings players. But I'm gonna go Texans. They look like they might have been able to get their first win against the Steelers, who once again Steelers are a pretty good team. So I think Texans are gonna pull it out in a close one, but I could be very wrong.
Well, I'm just gonna disagree, and I actually really hope I'm wrong because both teams are 0-3. So I'm just gonna go with the Vikings. I think maybe Kirk Cousins might. Yeah, and that I don't know for sure. I'm just going with the Vikings. I think Kirk Cousins will figure it out somehow. But I do. If the Texans do win, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
All right. So then we got Seahawks at Dolphins. I don't think this is too much of a competition. I think Russell Wilson could have another 4 or 5 touchdown day, which, oh my goodness, he's on pace to score 73 touchdowns. Yeah, I think it'll be another great day for Russell Wilson. I'm going to go Seahawks for sure.
I got Seahawks as well. I'm hoping DK Metcalf doesn't do that same thing, but
I think he'll learn
be
his
surprised.
lesson.
Would not be surprised if maybe later in the season he has like not something as big as that, but more like some kind of dumb mistake. But yeah, I got Seahawks.
All right, Steelers at Titans. Once again, of course, if they play, this is going to be a really good game. I think these are two teams that are kind of like those really solid teams that don't really get enough credit because they're not really flashy. I think both teams are very similar in that way. I'm going to go Steelers because the Titans defense didn't look very good against the Vikings, but I would not be surprised if the Titans won.
Yeah, I'm going to go with my Steelers again. They have been impressive, I think, in a lot of fans' point of views, but for me, I definitely have more expectations as far as their offense. Again, I don't know how much of a factor the Titans' defense will be, given that they haven't been able to stop the run past couple weeks. So let's see if the Steelers can exploit that. But yeah, I got Steelers in this one.
Awesome. All right, let's go Browns and Cowboys. Browns coming off a win. Cowboys coming off a disappointing loss, I'd say, but it was the Seahawks. But I'm gonna go Cowboys here. I think Dak Prescott is gonna keep playing quite well, and I think their offense is finally going to. I think their defense is gonna finally hold off the Browns just enough that the Cowboys can score more points.
Yeah, I think the main factor in this game will be turnovers because I know that Baker Mayfield will probably have some, maybe an interception. There will be some turnover on the Browns, but as long as the Cowboys can keep the football, just score. Like that's all they need to do is just score.
Exactly, exactly.
If they can outscore the Browns, I'm pretty sure they'd be able to win. Fortunately, they weren't able to do that against Seattle, but
Right.
I got the Cowboys as well.
So now we got Cardinals at Panthers. Cardinals coming off a very, very, very disappointing loss, and I believe the Panthers coming off a win. I think, yeah, no, the Panthers won, but I'm still gonna go Cardinals. I think they're gonna bounce back pretty easily against
Yeah,
a.
I got Cardinals as well. Hopefully Kyle Murray can bounce back from that performance he had against the Lions. So I got Cardinals.
All right, Colts at Bears. Two pretty solid teams, although the Bears a little weird. I think this is definitely a wild card game. I think this was one of I think this is one of the games that's pretty hard to predict. But I think if Nick Foles can play well enough, I think the Bears can pull off like a close victory.
Yeah. Um, I was debating about this. I picked the Colts at first, but I actually do really think the Bears have a shot. So I'm gonna go with Bears. I think Nick Foles, he might not have like a great day, but I think he'll be able to pull it out and get help from his wide receiving team. So yeah, I got Bears.
All right, so we got Ravens at the Washington football team now. I think the Ravens will bounce back pretty easily. I don't think this is too much of a question.
Yeah, I got Ravens at this one. I heard some news about Chase Young getting injured in the Browns game. I don't know how long he'll be out, but I got Ravens. I think they'll get some revenge from last week and hopefully get some offense going.
All right, and then we got Giants at Rams. I think the Rams are still a pretty solid team, but I definitely don't think they're like anything. I don't think they're anything to scoff at, but I also don't think I would ride on them too much. But they are playing the Giants. I'm gonna go Rams pretty easily.
Yeah, I mean, if the Giants can lose to a 49ers team that didn't have Jimmy G and most of their team was injured, I'm pretty sure they won't have a chance against the Rams. So I got Los Angeles Rams in this one.
All right, then we got Patriots at Chiefs. I think this will be another very exciting game. Chiefs are actually have a pretty hard first few weeks here, but I'm gonna go Chiefs. I think it'll be close, but I think Patrick Mahomes will definitely outperform Cam Newton.
Yeah. The Chiefs have been playing well. Again, that's why they're number one. It's also why they're unbeaten, so I got them as well. I think it'll be a close game, but I think the Chiefs will. Their offense is definitely more improved from the Patriots. So
All right, and final game of the daytime Sunday games. We got Bills at Raiders. I think Raiders are definitely a solid team, but I think Bills are just. I think Bills have a real good shot at the Super Bowl, especially with that defense. So I'm gonna go Bills.
yeah, did like the Raiders' performance against the Saints on that Monday Night Football game last week. However, I think the Bills have been a little bit better. They closed it out against the Rams this weekend, so I'm going with the Bills.
All right, then we got Eagles at 49ers. The 49ers, obviously a very banged up team, but I mean I think they've kind of been lucky so far that their games following all those massive injuries have been relatively easy. So hopefully Nick Mullins can play well enough that they'll get a few wins to the point where they can still hopefully make a playoff appearance by the time their players get back. So I'm going to go 49ers again.
Yeah, I mean, this game for me is just really tough because I don't have an idea of how good the Eagles really are yet. I mean, again, they tied the Bengals. What you're telling me that I'm supposed to think that they can beat? Well, I think they should beat the 49ers, but more, I don't have like a lot of hope in them. So I'm just gonna go 49ers. I think I might be wrong, but I don't really care anyway.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'm not really too high on the Eagles right now. Hopefully that can change later.
right. And then for Monday Night Football, we got Falcons at Panthers. Um, I think the Falcons are going to score enough points where, I don't know, maybe I'll score a bunch of points and lose another lead, but I think the Falcons should be able to hold on against a Panther team. this time around, especially without Christian McCaffrey, but I could be very wrong. But I'm going to go Falcons here.
Yeah, well, I'll just disagree, and I'm going to go with the Panthers. Now, I'm not saying that the Falcons will blow another lead, but I do think it could, or something like, drastic, not as bad as blowing a lead, but more like, turning over the ball and not generating enough offense without Julio Jones. So I'm just going to go with the Panthers, see what happens. Again, both teams not really like standing out to me right now, but I got the Panthers. I'm just going to go against you.
All right, cool. So we have two games that are different choices. So we could potentially tie. I could go up 3 games. You could go up a game. We'll see how that goes. Thanks for checking in, guys. To this week's recap, we'll probably have probably an NBA Finals video out to you sometime this week before Sunday. I wanted to do a live reaction to the Buccaneers, but for whatever reason, Streamlabs wouldn't let me do YouTube on my phone. Kind of a long story. I was at a friend's house for that, but I'll see if I can get something set up for the Jets game. But yeah, so really kind of a disappointing outcome for the Broncos. And as for the Steelers, I would say their future is not bright, but it is definitely has some light in it. We'll have to see for them. Thanks for checking in, guys. We will see you guys in the next one.
Peace.